My beloved friend, peace be upon you in this very moment. You are not here by chance. The hand of God has led you here to rest for a while in the still waters of His Word, and to hear a story that carries the fragrance of His wisdom. Before we begin, I gently invite you to open your heart like soft soil ready to receive rain. If these words bring you peace, if they stir your spirit with hope, I ask you to share them with someone who needs restoration. Leave your reflections in the comments below, subscribe so you can walk with us again, and allow this little sanctuary of words to be a place where your soul finds rest. Now listen closely. One moment, a man sits in the darkness of a prison cell, his wrists scarred from chains, his name stained by lies he did not commit. The next moment, that same man is bathed in the light of the palace, standing before kings, clothed in garments of honor, entrusted with the future of nations. This is not a fairy tale. This is the story of Joseph. And in his story lives a mystery that still breathes into your life. Today, God can lift you from the pit to the palace in a single breath. But here is the question: why does God wait? Why does He allow the prison to linger, the silence to stretch long into the night, before the dawn breaks suddenly with favor? Stay with me, beloved, because in Joseph's story lies your own reflection, and hidden within his suffering is the very key to your elevation. We begin not in the palace, but in the pit. Joseph was loved by his father, but hated by his brothers. He carried a dream, a vision God had planted within him, and yet the very ones who should have protected him plotted to destroy him. They cast him into a pit, empty, cold, without water, and sold him away for silver, thinking they had silenced the dreamer. Have you felt this? To be misunderstood by those closest to you, to be pushed aside by the very ones you trusted, to be spoken against, treated as though your life held no worth. Joseph's descent into the pit was not an accident. It was the beginning of divine preparation. For the pit strips us of every illusion of control. It teaches us to depend not on man, but on God alone. And perhaps, dear soul, you know what it feels like to be in such a place. Life has lowered you into a space where hope seems scarce, where voices that once praised you have grown silent, where the dreams once vivid in your heart feel far away, as though buried beneath the stones of betrayal. But hear me, God never abandons His children in the pit. The same hand that allowed Joseph to fall was already preparing the rope to lift him higher. You see, the pit is never the end. It is a doorway, a passageway toward something your eyes cannot yet see. From the pit, Joseph was sold into the house of Potiphar. There, he served with excellence. The blessing of the Lord rested upon him, and soon he was entrusted with everything in that house. Yet just as quickly as favor appeared, false accusation came. Lies whispered by the lips of another dragged him into prison. Pause here. The pit was betrayal, but the prison was injustice. And perhaps you too know this pain. Not only abandoned, but falsely accused. Not only forgotten, but punished for the good you tried to do. The prison is a strange place in God's design. It feels like delay, but it is in truth preparation. It feels like silence, but it is in truth God writing the next chapter. It feels like loss, but it is in truth the womb of destiny. Joseph did not know it yet, but in that prison, God was sharpening his gift. For Joseph carried the ability to interpret dreams, and it was in prison that his gift would make room for him. The cupbearer dreamed, the baker dreamed, and Joseph, though in chains, listened with compassion and spoke the wisdom of God. He gave what he had, even in a place of restriction. And though men forgot him, heaven remembered. Ah, beloved, do not despise the prison. It is the place where your gift is tested, where your heart is refined, where your faith is proven genuine. Men may forget your kindness, but God records every seed. And then, suddenly, as only God can, a shift came. Pharaoh himself was troubled by a dream none of his wise men could explain. And at the appointed time, the cupbearer remembered. Joseph, he spoke of the prisoner who could interpret dreams. Think of this moment. Years of waiting, nights of questioning, prayers whispered in the shadows. And then, in a single morning, the guards came running. Joseph, hurry, Pharaoh calls for you. They bathed him, they clothed him in clean garments, and he was brought swiftly from the dungeon to the throne room. Overnight, from prisoner to prince, from chains to authority, from forgotten to remembered. This is how God works. Not in slow climbs or half-fulfilled promises, but in sudden shifts that reveal his sovereignty. Beloved friend, your pit is not permanent. Your prison is not the end. God is writing a chapter you cannot yet see, and when the moment comes, no man, no lie, no injustice will be able to stop it. For when heaven speaks your name, doors swing open, chains fall off, and the palace awaits your arrival. But pause again and hear this. The palace is not a reward for suffering. It is an assignment. Joseph was not lifted for his own comfort, but to preserve nations, to rescue his family, to become a vessel of God's mercy in famine. Your elevation too will not be about you alone. It will be for the lives that will be healed through your testimony. It will be for the hungry who will eat from your obedience. It will be for the broken who will rise because you did not give up in the night. This is the mystery of divine elevation. God lifts you not only for your sake, but for the sake of many. So let your heart be still. You may feel buried. You may feel forgotten. But in truth, you are being planted. And in the fullness of time, you will rise with fruit that feeds others. Stay with me, beloved, for in the next breath of this story, we will enter the palace with Joseph and see how the man who once wept in the pit stood face to face with the very brothers who betrayed him. What he spoke to them will reveal the deepest secret of moving. From pain to purpose, do not leave just yet, for the treasure of this story is still unfolding before us. The story of Joseph is not a tale of quick victories, but of long roads walked in trust. And perhaps this is what makes it so tender for the soul, that it mirrors the hidden seasons of your own life. For how many years did Joseph wait? How many dawns did he rise in the prison, unsure if that day would be different? How many times did hope flicker, only to be met with silence again? Some of you listening now know exactly how that feels. You have prayed until your words ran dry. You have sown kindness, yet reaped betrayal. You have held to the dream God whispered to you, yet nothing seems to move. Instead, doors close, friends disappear, and the ground beneath you feels uncertain. Hear me gently, beloved. Delay is not denial. Silence is not absence. The God who holds time itself is weaving a design too vast for your weary eyes to see. Joseph's gift of interpreting dreams could not be used in the palace until first it was proven in the prison. Why? Because the palace requires humility, purity of heart, and faith that does not bend under pressure. If Joseph had been lifted too soon, he might have misused his position. If he had been exalted before he was broken, pride might have destroyed him. But in the long dark nights, something happened in Joseph's soul. He learned to lean not on his own strength, but on the God who never left him. And this, dear friend, is why your waiting matters. The season you call wasted is the very season where heaven is shaping you. The place you want to escape may be the place where God is planting roots that will hold you steady. The delay is mercy. The silence is preparation. The waiting is love. Consider this. When Pharaoh's dream came, it was not merely about Egypt. It was about a famine that would reach far beyond. It was about the survival of Jacob's family, about the preservation of Israel, about the line through which Christ himself would one day be born. Do you see? Joseph's elevation was not small. It was connected to eternity, and so is yours. Your life is not a single thread. It is woven into the great tapestry of God's design. What feels small to you may be the very turning point in generations to come. Your faithfulness now may feed a famine you cannot yet see. This is why the enemy tries to break you in the pit. This is why he whispers lies in the prison. Because he knows that if you endure, you will rise not only for yourself, but for many. So I ask you, can you trust God with the silence? Can you hold to him when the prison doors remain shut? Can you believe that even here, he is good, he is present, and he is preparing a palace you cannot yet imagine? Beloved, the way of God is not like the way of men. We chase speed, he builds depth. We long for escape, he longs for transformation. We want the palace now, he wants us ready to carry it. And so Joseph waited, not knowing when, not knowing how, but choosing to remain faithful in the small things. And then the door opened, and it opened suddenly. I want you to feel this shift. The guards rushing into the prison, the sound of footsteps echoing down the corridor, the clang of iron doors, and then his name spoken aloud. Joseph, Pharaoh calls for you. That very morning he awoke as a prisoner. By nightfall he would be second only to Pharaoh. In one day a lifetime changed, from pit to palace, from prisoner to prince, from forgotten to remembered. And this is the truth I speak into your spirit now. God can change your story in a single day. You may have waited years, but the shift can come in a moment. You may have felt unseen, but heaven has never stopped watching. You may have wondered if the dream was lost, but God has kept it safe, like a seed hidden beneath the soil, waiting for the appointed season to break forth. When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he did not tremble. He did not beg. He spoke with calm authority, giving glory to God. And Pharaoh recognized the Spirit upon him. Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? And in that instant, Joseph was entrusted with the kingdom. Beloved, see this truth. When the time comes, you will not need to fight for your place. You will not need to prove yourself with striving. The Spirit of God within you will bear witness, and men will recognize what heaven has already decreed. Rest in this. What is yours cannot be stolen. The dream God planted cannot be uprooted. The destiny written over you cannot be erased. It may tarry, but it will come. And when it comes, it will come suddenly. Yet let me whisper this caution with love. The palace is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of your assignment. Joseph was not lifted to wear fine robes, but to carry the weight of nations. He was not exalted to enjoy power, but to preserve life, and so it will be with you. When God lifts you, it will not be for vanity. It will be for service. It will be to heal, to restore, to feed, to build. Your elevation is for His glory, not your own. So when the moment comes, Do not say, finally, I am free to live for myself. Say instead, finally, I am free to serve as He has called me. Now, stay with me, beloved, because the most tender part of this story has not yet been told. The palace was not only a place of power, it became the place of reconciliation. For one day, the very brothers who cast Joseph into the pit came before him, bowing low, not knowing who he was. And the dream Joseph had seen as a boy, the sheaves bowing down, the stars giving honor, came to pass before his eyes. Can you imagine the flood of emotions, the faces of betrayal, the voices of those who once mocked him, now desperate, hungry, pleading for help? Joseph had the power to avenge, to punish, to repay every wound. And yet, listen to what he said. Do not be afraid. You meant it for evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many lives. Here lies the deepest wisdom of this story. The pit was never about destruction. The prison was never about abandonment. The betrayal was never the final word. Every step, though bitter, was guided by a hand greater than hatred, greater than injustice, greater than despair. Beloved, your wounds will not be wasted. Your tears will not be forgotten. Your pain will one day become the very place where God's mercy shines the brightest. From the pit to the palace, Joseph's story whispers this eternal truth. God redeems. He lifts. He restores. He brings beauty from ashes. He turns mourning into joy. He weaves what was broken into a tapestry of glory. So be still, do not fear the pit. Do not curse the prison. For even here, you are in the hand of the Anointed One. And when the appointed day arrives, you too will rise, not only for yourself, but for all who will be saved, because you endured. Stay with me, because in part 2, we will walk deeper into Joseph's forgiveness and see how the power of mercy is the final key to true elevation. Without forgiveness, the palace becomes a prison of pride. But with forgiveness, the palace becomes a temple of healing. And that, dear one, is the sacred secret we must unfold together. Beloved friend, we ended with Joseph standing in the palace, face to face with the very ones who once cast him into the pit. The dream of his youth had come true, but not in the way he expected. It was not triumph for triumph's sake, but mercy, standing in the place of vengeance. And here we find a truth as sharp as it is tender. God will not only lift you from the pit, He will lead you back to the ones who hurt you, so that through you they too may taste His mercy. Think of this moment. Joseph, governor of Egypt, dressed in robes of power, surrounded by guards, every word he spoke carrying the weight of a nation, and then the door opens, and in walk his brothers, the same brothers who mocked him, the same brothers who stripped him of his robe, the same brothers who sold him for silver, their hands stained with betrayal. And now they bow before him, hungry, desperate, blind to the truth that the one they kneel before is their own brother. What stirs in a heart at such a sight? The ache of old wounds, the memory of rejection, the silent question, will I open my hand in mercy or close my fist in vengeance? Joseph, for a moment, wept, not in anger, but in the weight of recognition. For this was not about power, but about healing, and healing requires forgiveness. This is the second mystery of the palace. God lifts you not only to preserve lives, but to reconcile what was broken. Elevation without forgiveness is merely pride dressed in silk. But forgiveness transforms the palace into a holy altar, where love triumphs over hate, and light drives out darkness. Joseph chose mercy. He tested his brothers, yes, not to harm them, but to see if their hearts had changed. He listened, he waited, and when the moment was right, he revealed himself. Do not be afraid. I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into Egypt. But do not grieve, and do not be angry with yourselves, for God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Oh, beloved, hear the depth of these words. Joseph did not deny their betrayal. He did not erase the pain, but he looked beyond the wound to the hand of God who had guided all along. This is forgiveness, not pretending it didn't hurt, not ignoring the tears, but choosing to see through heaven's eyes that even what men meant for evil, God has turned for good. And here lies the healing your heart may need tonight. For you to have faces in your memory, voices that cut deep, moments that left scars, and the temptation is to hold the pain close, to build walls around your heart, to say, I will never forgive, they do not deserve it. But forgiveness, beloved, is not about what they deserve. It is about your freedom. It is about your heart becoming whole. It is about refusing to let the pit live inside you even after God has lifted you out. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the strongest act of trust. It is placing the scales of justice into God's hands and saying, I will not carry this weight any longer. You are the judge. I will be the vessel of mercy. And oh, the peace that comes when you forgive. Like Joseph, you weep, but your tears are not of bitterness. They are the tears of release, of chains falling away, of burdens finally laid down. When Joseph forgave, he not only healed himself, he healed his brothers. He healed his family. He restored what years of division had torn apart. And this is what forgiveness does in you. It ripples outward. It restores what hatred has broken. It plants seeds of reconciliation in barren soil. It makes room for generations to walk in peace. Beloved, hear this sacred truth. The palace is not only for feeding nations with bread, it is for feeding hearts with mercy. The grain stored in Egypt fed their bodies, but the forgiveness flowing from Joseph fed their souls. So I ask you gently, who stands before you in memory today, whose name brings a shadow to your heart, whose face awakens old pain, bring them now into the light of God's presence. Whisper their name and say, I release you, I forgive you. I will not carry this weight another day. Do not wait for them to repent. Do not wait for an apology. Forgive because you are free, and because the Anointed One forgave you first. Remember his words on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. If Christ could speak such mercy while nails pierced his flesh, can we not, in his Spirit, release those who wounded us? Forgiveness is the true palace. Without it, robes are heavy chains. Without it, thrones are lonely prisons. But with it, even a prison cell becomes a temple of peace. Now see this with me. Joseph's brothers trembled before him, afraid he would take revenge. But Joseph, with gentleness, said, You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. This is the language of the healed. This is the voice of one who has seen beyond the pit. This is the sound of a soul at rest. And one day, beloved, you will speak the same. You will look back on betrayal, on loss, on pain, and you will no longer tremble in bitterness. Instead, you will say with peace, Yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke me, but God turned it for good. This is the secret of inner peace. Not the absence of wounds, but the presence of God in every wound. Not the erasing of pain, but the redeeming of pain. Not denial, but transformation. And so, Joseph's story teaches us, elevation without forgiveness is emptiness. But forgiveness births a legacy. For through Joseph's mercy, a nation survived. Through his mercy, the line of Judah was preserved. Through that line came David. Through David came Christ. And through Christ came salvation to the ends of the earth. Do you see, beloved? Forgiveness is not small. It touches eternity. It opens the way for generations to walk in freedom. So let your heart breathe tonight. Release what you have carried too long and trust that just as God lifted Joseph, he will lift you. And when he does, you will rise not with clenched fists, but with open hands, ready to heal, ready to love, ready to serve. This is the journey from pit to palace. This is the way of the Anointed One. Rest now in this truth. Your pain is not wasted. Your tears are not forgotten. Your waiting is not in vain. You are being prepared. You are being refined. You are being readied for an assignment greater than you can imagine. And when the day comes, when the doors open suddenly, when you stand clothed in new garments, remember Joseph, remember mercy, remember forgiveness. For this is the crown of true elevation. Beloved, thank you for walking this sacred journey with me. If these words have spoken peace into your spirit, leave your reflection in the comments below. Share this with someone who carries a heavy burden. Subscribe so that together we may walk again through the still waters of God's Word. And as you go, may the peace of Christ guard your heart. May the love of the Father embrace you. May the presence of the Spirit guide you. From pit to palace, from sorrow to joy, from brokenness to healing, you are held in His hands. Peace be with you, now and always.